think there is a link between football and degenerative brain disorders like CTE?
Well, certainly, Dr. McKee's research shows that a number of retired NFL players were diagnosed with CTE. So the answer to that question is certainly yes.
Wow. What up, sports fans? Cole Permain here. Welcome back to the Cole Line. I'm with my main man, Connie Sheed, pretty much resident expert on anything football. And there couldn't be a better time to have him on because the NFL officials just dropped a bomb. This is the first time the NFL has ever admitted any connection with CTE, since in 2009, League Vice President Greg Aiello told the New York Times it's quite obvious from medical research that's been done that concussions can lead to long-term problems. But even then, that was a completely vague and general statement that doesn't connect the two whatsoever. And what makes this announcement even more surprising was right before the Super Bowl, Dr. Mitch Berger, who leads the league's subcommittee on former players and long-term effects of brain and spinal injury, was constantly saying no and denying any relation between CTE or brain damage to former players. So I think my first question going into this for you, Conrad, is how is an announcement like this going to affect the NFL, especially moving forward?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. Honestly, Cole, with it being such a fresh announcement, I'm not totally sure what the ramifications of it are going to be. I've heard some people say, well, it's going to affect the overall pool of talent coming into the NFL, throwing around numbers like 20% of kids at the high school level won't play football anymore. I can see some parents saying, no, we're not putting our kids into football. And yeah, that might affect the high school level, but that just means there are going to be more open spots for others who may have not had a chance to make their high school team before.
You know, for those parents who want to throw their kids into imminent danger.
Exactly. And players are still going to be developed at the NCAA level, which is essentially the only feeder system to the NFL right now. To me, the guys like Chris Borland, who have fantastic rookie seasons and then retire, are the guys that raise eyebrows and maybe send some shockwaves around the league that might open up the eyes of other current players. The only things you're going to see change in the current game is an attempt to enhance a player's safety with changes to current rules in an attempt to develop a safer game. The real ramifications in this statement are likely to be felt outside of the NFL and in the courtrooms, as the admission has just been first announced and will affect the legal issues and lawsuits that the NFL is currently battling former players with, and the fact that from a PR standpoint is something the NFL and the public obviously see as a bit of a dark spot.
I think it will be really interesting to see how this carries onward, and especially with those lawsuits, just to see where the NFL and the league goes from here. Now, this isn't the only big story that's happened around the NFL this week. The Jaguars just signed defensive tackle Malik Jackson, who many viewed to be the top prize of free agency. He got signed to a 5-year, $85 million deal. Also, Olivier Vernon got the same money and length of a deal with the Giants, and they shelled out huge money to defensive players Janoris Jenkins and Damon Harrison.
Yeah, and all three of those guys were ranked near or at the top of their respective positions on the open market. And I think the Giants did that in the hope to fix that side of the ball, which is just a mess last season.
To say the least, yeah.
On top of all this free agency madness, it looks like the market for a good but not great quarterback has been set around $17 to $18 million. Last year, Ryan Tannehill got an extension, which averaged out his contract somewhere around $17 to $18 million a year. Sam Bradford was just awarded a $17 million deal with the Eagles, and the Houston Texans stole Brock Osweiler away from the Denver Broncos to be their new franchise quarterback at $18 million a season.
Now, I want to just touch on Brock Osweiler for a second, because that is some big money for a guy who's never played a full season in the NFL. He got 8 starts with the Broncos last year, and he went 5-3. Now, he did look pretty promising, but again, a lot of those wins were coming from the number 1 ranked defense of the NFL last season. Now, $18 million is a lot of money to a player who you're really unsure of, and I just want to get your thoughts thinking, is this a smart move by the Texans? They have a great defense already, but is this the quarterback who's going to take them to the Super Bowl?
Well, it's too early to see right now, Cole, but honestly, on the surface, I think it's a good deal for the team. The Texans, like you said, have a great defense, and their coach, Bill O'Brien, is an offensive-minded guy who I think can mold a guy with Brock Osweiler's skill set into a great quarterback.
Now, these weren't the only quarterbacks to be getting extra big contracts this year. I believe there was one more you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, well, furthermore, the market for a top-tier quarterback keeps extending, with Joe Flacco receiving a 3-year extension, in which he'll be receiving a little bit over $22 million a year. While I don't question Flacco's playoff resume in the least, I still don't feel comfortable putting him in my top 5 quarterbacks in the league. And, you know, that's the upper echelon, and that's what he looks like he's getting paid right now. At least that's what his contract says. I'm really interested to see what one of the game's brightest young stars and Andrew Luck's next contract is going to look like. when's the inflation going to stop?
I think what everybody wants to know is when is the deflation going to stop? Looking at you, Tom Brady. That's going to wrap it up for us here at the Coal Line. Big shout out to Conrad. Thank you so much for sharing your NFL expertise. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and
That's the Coal Line.